Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 15, Episode 38. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us this Monday, Steelers Nation. This Victory Monday, Dave. Been a hot minute since we had our last Victory Monday, so happy about that. Pittsburgh breaking their two-game losing streak by beating the Las Vegas Raiders in fairly convincing fashion by game's end, 32-13 on Sunday in a technical road game, but felt like a home game with the presence of Steelers Nation. So, Dave, great show today. I'm trying to figure out, how should I feel about this game, Dave? I'm still a little mixed on it. Obviously happy for the win. That's first and foremost. You don't have to sweat it out at the end, which is rare for this team. Still some questions overall. How are you feeling about this game?
Yeah, I've already started to get a little bit into the all 22 because I wanted to look at specifically all the Justin Fields throws. And obviously pleased as punch to get a win. Pleased to not have to sit on pins and needles for half of the fourth quarter of that game, because you obviously felt that was in hand at that point. There was a lot of good to come out of it. There's a lot of mediocre to come out of it. Let's just put it this way. As far as this win goes, there's going to be a lot to talk about when it comes to it. Obviously convincing on the scoreboard, and you definitely glad to see this team get over the 30-point mark. But I think this is going to create a lot of discussion from this game, even though it was a W, even though it was a large margin of victory. And I think for several reasons, especially with Russell Wilson coming back to health and being active as the backup for this game.
Yeah, to win by 19 points, that's a game you should win by 19 points. The Pittsburgh Steelers were clearly a better team, and in typical Pittsburgh fashion, slow start, got punched in the mouth, but they are a great counter-punching team and able to win late and win the second half and wear the Raiders down and end that game the way that it should have maybe been played the entire time, but at least you were able to get that, and it wasn't an uber close game at the end. Pittsburgh's defense dominant after a first drive touchdown allowed. The run game got going, had maybe a little Chargers vibe to it, just in the way this thing kind of transpired, but overall, happy with the victory. Dave, before we get into the game itself and talk Justin Fields and Najee Harris and TJ Watt and everything, let's do some housekeeping. Inactive standpoint, very easy this week, I think, to figure out who the 7 were going to be, the 5 injured players, which included Nick Herbig, Alex Highsmith, Cordell Patterson, etc. Emergency third quarterback, ninth offensive lineman, and that allowed Roman Wilson to make his NFL debut, got 5 snaps, no targets, no catches, and Russell Wilson, as you mentioned, active for the first time as the number 2 quarterback in this game.
Yeah, it made it really easy to dissect this week, especially when you have 5 of those guys that are officially ruled out. And then you have you just have to make your decision on the who's going to be the extra offensive lineman to sit. And then you have the emergency quarterback spot, and you knew that Russell Wilson was going to be back for this game, so that led it to believe that it would be Kyle Allen in the emergency role. So nothing surprising there. But we did have a few transactions leading up to the game, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did. Pittsburgh making several moves on Saturday before the game. They placed defensive lineman / edge to Marvin Leal on injured reserve due to his neck injury. Jerry Dulac reporting he is likely out for the season. That occurred in the fourth quarter of the Dallas loss. So unfortunate for Leal, who had a really good camp. Wasn't playing a ton in the regular season, but was respectably playing, at a baseline level. So unfortunate for him. Went about his future as a former 3rd-round pick. Team signing Ade Ogundeji to the 53-man roster, one of the outside linebackers who played some rotational snaps in this one. They promoted a pair of players and another outside linebacker in Aku Leota, and also elevated Jonathan Ward, which I was a little curious about them elevating Jonathan Ward with Jalen Warren playing in this one, but Ward ended up playing a couple of backfield snaps to close this one out.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised to see Ward elevated as well too, but may have been more of insurance of you did have a little bit of questions starting the week, obviously with Jalen Warren. In fact, what a journey that was. Mike Tomlin called him doubtful on Tuesday, and you turn around by the end of the week, and he had his he wasn't he didn't even have a game status by Saturday afternoon, but. Not too. We knew we were probably going to get a couple of edge rushers up on the active game roster this weekend, and that's exactly what happened. And so, yeah, overall, not a huge surprise, but it was a bit surprising to see Ward up there. But makes I guess a little bit sense when you look at Warren coming off the injury.
Yeah, I want to be careful with him. Make sure there was no setback. He maybe not put too much on Warren's plate in this one, and Ward can help out on special teams, and so there's a usefulness there as well. All right, Dave, let's get into the game itself, and this one was a 7-6 Raiders lead with a minute left at the half, and Pittsburgh scored, late in the first half there and poured it all on in the second half. So again, what are your main takeaways? If you had to kind of describe the feel or the impressions of the Steelers team from this game, what would they be?
Oh, wow. Obviously, my main takeaways was, Najee had a hell of a game, especially yards after contact. He played an integral part in this game with some of those runs that he had. You saw him break off a couple of explosive runs in this game. The touchdown run was just incredible on his part because Bob Spillane looks like he has that thing blown up in the backfield. The other aspect of it was the unevenness, the very unevenness of it when it comes to Justin Fields on the offensive side of football. You put me right in the middle of the point, the middle point of the game where it really was the most curious point of the game. Inside the 2-minute warning, you are, let's see, at that point, what was it? 7-6 at the time. You have a 1st and 10, and this obviously comes after the fumble recovery by Benton, forced out the first punch out by TJ Watt. You go Najee Harris to the 27 of Vegas for 3 yards. You go Najee Harris up the middle for 3 yards. So you set with a 3rd and 4, just under the 2-minute warning. You've definitely got to come away with points in this situation. You really obviously want to come away with a touchdown in this situation. Fields throws an interception to the middle of the field, really kind of ill-advised throw, and you're thinking, oh crap, there goes that drive. Well, they get bailed out. Well, I don't want to say bailed out because I thought it was a legitimate roughing the passer call because he did. If you go letter by the law, you cannot have all your weight on the quarterback. Was it a little bit on the more generous side than most of them? Okay, I'll buy that. By the letter of the law, I think they got that right. Lord knows I'm not afraid to call them out and say, yeah, you kind of got away with one. But if you're going to call them and be consistent with those kind of calls, that one's got to go in the bucket to help protect these quarterbacks. But it did bail them out of a situation of an interception there. And at that point, when that play happened, you're 119 left in the first half. Because of kind of the things that led up to that point, some of the throws and all misses that Justin Fields had, you do have to wonder if they don't ultimately go down and score and get a touchdown there, you do have to wonder if how serious Mike Tomlin would have been to making a change at quarterback at that point.
When Fields threw that pick right to Divine Diablo, I had the tweet about ready to hit send of this. There might be a serious chance this team turns to Russell Wilson at halftime. And at that point, right before hitting send, I saw the flag come in and said, all right, hold on. Let's see what the flag is first. Then, it was the drive stayed alive and Pittsburgh scored. And even that was difficult after that. You're facing a fourth and about a half yard. Pittsburgh goes for it. They use play action and it's covered and the Raiders have it taken away. And as soon as I saw that, I went, oh no, that play intention, it did not work. The Raiders were not fooled. What's going to happen? And Fields, to his credit, improvised, made it work, and rushed for the touchdown. So you saw the yin and the yang there, where you saw Fields throw a bad pick, the penalty resets things, gives them a second chance, wipes things out, and then Fields, is able to improvise, use his athleticism, a play that Russell Wilson, in all likelihood, would not be able to make, and Pittsburgh scores, and they take off from there. So yeah, that was a huge moment for the penalty to come on that on that pick.
Absolutely, and we'll never know in the grand scheme of things, but you do have to wonder when you go back through this game.
Oh yeah, you do for sure. So my overall impressions of this game is slow start, great finish. I mean, that's really what it was. Kind of a tale of two halves, with the first half, offense, defense not playing up to par, where the defense allows that first drive touchdown for the Raiders, the offense sputtering as usual, but really able to close things out in the second half with a more consistent run game, and the defense really being able to lock in after that first possession, that first touchdown they gave up. So again, you want to win by 19 points against these teams, but it wasn't. There's still certainly some things to address.
Yeah, and once again, it'll be interesting to see. Look, I went to bed thinking. I watched the TV tape last night. Then I got up this morning, and I first thing that I did after checking the salary cap and checking
as one does,
snap counts from the game sheet. I loaded up all the pass attempts for Justin Fields on the all 22, and only the press box all 22 view. Not I didn't have time to go through each of the end zone views and all like that, because I wanted to see all the drop backs all together and run through them. I went to bed thinking one thing, and I kind of found myself this morning in a little bit different spot. Overall, what Justin Fields gives you with the mobility aspect, and look, he did make some plays out of structure for sure in this game, using his, like you talk about the one down the left side to Calvin Austin for, I think that might have been the first explosive play of the game, but that was a nice play out of structure. There were a couple of scrambles, there were a couple of draws. He was able to use his legs. He made his ability and his legs obviously gave you the 2 touchdowns that he had. And he was able to make plays out of structure. Outside of that, though, in structure, he left a lot to be desired there. There was a stretch, I think, in that first half where it felt like he missed like 4 throws right in a row. Missed Pickens over to the left side, was high to Freiermuth. Over on the left side over his head, and I think a couple of I think you had over to the right side again to Pickens, no chance, and then correct me if I'm wrong, the kind of the flare out to Warren that almost was a disaster over there. When the good was good with him, it was good. He did not. That said, he had throws more than 20 yards down the field were non-existent in this one. Most of the stuff that he completed was more to the edges. He did get away with the interception within there. It was so uneven in this game, and people are going to say, "Man, this team won. Why y'all digging into this?" Because the quarterback play was very uneven, and there are highs that this guy gives you. Shoot that into my vein kind of highs especially with the mobility factor that we're just not used to seeing from quarterbacks in Pittsburgh in a long time, right? And we've seen other quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes and go around the league and all like that. But the unevenness, I think that one of the key things, obviously, that's in Justin Fields' favor right now is the fact that he hasn't had brutal turnovers, and he has stayed away from those for the most part.
Sure, I have the stat from my Stats of the Weird column that went up this morning on Steelers Depot that in Steelers history of quarterbacks to play all 6 of the team's first games of the season, the only 2 quarterbacks to throw 1 or fewer interceptions over that span are Justin Fields and Terry Bradshaw in 1975, the only 2. And so from that standpoint, Fields has continued to take care of the football. Again, terrible interception that gets wiped out by a penalty Pittsburgh did not control, that did not impact the play, did not impact the interception. So there's some context there. Let me ask you this, because we could debate the quarterback situation throughout the show a little bit later on. It'll be the top thing we want to find out about from Tomlin tomorrow. This is really kind of decision week. Health can't be a factor with Russ. He was active. He was cleared. Russ can't really be a factor. He practiced all last week. He'll practice again all this week. So it is truly decision day here on Tuesday for Tomlin. What changed though for this game? Because we're talking like they lost this game, or it was a 2-point game. They won this game by 19, and they blew the Raiders out in the second half. So what changed for this offense to turn things around after a really sputtering start?
In game, I mean, I think Najee, their ability to run the football played a big part in this win, especially in the second half.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I mean, I think there was the Najee Harris show where the run game really got going, and it was easily his best game of the season, one of the best of his career. I don't know if I would say it was the best of his career, but statistically, I mean, he averaged 7.6 yards per carry. That's a single game best for him in the NFL, 14 carries, 106 yards. He ran hard. He looked more explosive. He was able to reel off a 36-yard touchdown run. So, you saw the best of Najee Harris in this game, and you saw some good blocking, not only from the offensive line, but from tight ends and receivers. And running the ball is an 11-man job. The way that run defense is an 11-man job. It takes everybody, and we talk about so much. And Harris spoke about this post game that usually those big runs come from more than just the O-line blocking. Usually, it comes from a tight end throwing a block, a receiver throwing a block, other guys getting involved. You have the clip on Twitter right now, Pat Freiermuth throwing that last key block on Harris's long touchdown run. So that was heartening to see this team run the ball really well consistently for essentially the first time all season.
Right. And look, I think Najee played a solid part in helping create those runs as well too, man. Bob Spillane on that touchdown run cuts right through, and Najee was able to sidestep him, and then kind of looks like I'm interested to see that from behind. We only have right now, we'll have it by the end of the day. We only have the front side end zone view. I'm interested to see how tight that was on the backside there. But and then, the earlier run from Najee, boy, he broke some ankles on that one. I mean, it was a nice lane, a nice cutback lane. He had a nice takeoff path there. He was going to get 5, 6, 7 yards anyway. But the move that he put on the DB to kind of break his ankles to cut back, and then obviously finish that thing down the field with some power running there. But the running game, cracking those large plays, certainly helped play a big part in this. And then you obviously get the turnovers of some short field situations that played into this. And then the legs, the legs of Justin Fields still can't be denied, and that's what makes this whole thing kind of difficult here, as does the fact that you do see Justin Fields be able to make plays out of structure, as well with his arm. But how good is the good? I think when it comes to Justin Fields, have we seen the best of his best when it comes to playmaking? And is that best of the best enough? Can Russell Wilson give you more best of the best without more lower of the lows, I guess?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll talk about that. And I'm not 100% sure where I'm currently at. Have not been able to go through the tape, and that's going to be an important component of it all. But I mean, I just off the top, I thought it was his worst game of the season yesterday, and that may be funny to say in a 32-13 win, the most comfortable victory Pittsburgh has had all year. And Fields, to his credit, had 2 rushing scores, and that first one was so critical, like I said, off that play action that did not work as intended, and so the play becomes just a free for all, and Fields made it work. And those are elements that he brings that, again, Russell Wilson would not be able to bring. But I just thought operationally, accuracy wise, he was at least at his worst accuracy of all in this game, but ultimately battled through. And what I think my overall impression of this game of, okay, why did Pittsburgh win? When your offense is struggling, the way they struggled in the first half to sustain drives, to get out of their own way with penalties and all these first and second and longs, in these moments, you need your defense, you need your special teams to create splash, to create short fields for your offense, because your offense is not going to be able to do it themselves on these long, flowing 12-play drives. And you got that in this game with a punch out from TJ Watt that set the Steelers up at the 30, with a punt block by Jeremiah Moon that set the Steelers up at the 9, with a interception by Dante Jackson that set Pittsburgh up at the 7. And so you had 3 Steelers drives begin at the Raiders 30, at their 9, and at their 7. And you do those types of things where you give your offense super short fields where they're essentially in scoring range from the second they take the football. That is big. And that was, I think, really needed in a game like this when the offense was struggling for the first 30 minutes.
Yeah, you better win when you get field position in situations like that, for sure. Absolutely, you should. That definitely played a role in this. And I mean, what can you say about the defense? They continue to take the ball away in key areas of the field and key moments, and more particularly down closer to the red zone. How many red zone takeaways does this defense have over the course of like the last 3 seasons?
I'm not sure on that. I know I was tracking it heavily last year, and since last year they have 12, which leads the NFL. They led the NFL in red zone takeaways last year with 8. They have 4 this year, which I believe also is tops in the NFL. So that is another factor too. Not only do you get red zone stops, you're getting red zone takeaways. You're not holding teams to just 3 instead of 7. You're shutting them out. You're leaving them empty-handed. And there's such a win in that, obviously, from a point standpoint, but also just you demoralize an offense when they work so hard to get down into your red zone, trying to get points and what is typically low-scoring games against Pittsburgh, and you come away empty-handed with nothing. And it's such a big swing in Pittsburgh's favor. So there is a bend but don't break defense element to this Pittsburgh Steelers group, but it's also bend, don't break, and take. Bend, don't break, and take. It's like how the Steelers defense operates, and that is really impressive.
All right. Yeah, let's focus back more on the offense real quick. And obviously, haven't gone through it with a fine-tooth comb like I would like to yet. And I know you haven't either. But generally, what did you think about the offensive line?
A good job overall. I thought pass protection on the whole was solid. I think it's been solid the last 2 weeks. They got a good push. Obviously, they ran the ball with success. I thought Broderick Jones, my guess is he's going to have the worst grade of the starting 5. We should mention as well, obviously, it could be important. Zach Frazier getting hurt in this one, ankle injury, don't know the status. Cannot afford to lose another offensive lineman in general, but especially not him because of his value and the drop-off there is from Frazier to next man up, Ryan McCollum. So we'll see the status on Frazier. Don't have really any updates. The good news is he was walking to the tunnel by himself. I'm pretty sure he wanted to go back into the game, which is classic Zach Frazier, but the team wouldn't let him. And thankfully, the score kind of gave them the opportunity to just rest him and get him tested, and we'll see. So I don't know how much time he'll miss. Whatever it's worth, he was walking decently well by himself to the tunnel, and we'll just wait and hope for good news.
Yeah, we'll have to see if that blows up on him. And so on for, I was kind of worried when he got rolled up at first. I was wondering if that might be a knee or something like that. But we'll just have to wait and see. I guess it wouldn't be a shock if he ends up missing, this next game here. But time will obviously tell. He's a tough kid, obviously, and well, you definitely don't want to go a number of games without having him in there. But I thought the first snap Ryan McCollum was in the game was the one that Najee went yard on. So there is that factor of it in there, but I mean, without a doubt, those two aren't 1-to-1 overall. I'm with you on the Broderick Jones. I think he's probably likely to be the lowest graded player within this. I tried to watch as much Mason McCormick as I could to kind of keep one eye solidly fixed on from what I've watched so far. I thought he played another good game over there at right guard. And I thought Dan Moore represented himself fairly well again over at left tackle there. Mm-hmm. But we'll have plenty of time to break that down. But I thought for the most part it was an above the line performance with the offensive line group. There were some quick pressures that Justin Fields was able to get you out of because of his legs. So that obviously can't be ignored. But I mean, was it the best game by the offensive line this year? Probably not. You know, I think we could probably easily agree on that. But
what do you think was better? Was there one that comes off top of your head?
I think better? That one against the way they wore the Falcons down early on still sticks in my head.
Okay,
I guess overall, I mean, it obviously wasn't a bad one, but I think Najee had as much, if not more, to do with the run game success than the offensive line.
Yeah, he created. Well, I think he took advantage once he got into some space. He made plays, and that's important. To get more than what's blocked is to make some of those second level defenders miss, to show some speed in the third level and open grass, and so that was good to kind of see it all come together. So I think it went hand in hand. We'll check the tape, but yeah, Najee certainly in that rush yards over expected metric. I assume he'll be looking pretty favorable in this week.
All right, let's see the tight ends. I thought overall did a admirable job in this, both as receivers and in the blocking game. The wide receivers left some plays out there overall. I think Calvin Austin had a fine game finding space and getting open. It's a shame that you go back and you look at the TV replay of that kind of that slot fade down the right side. You talk about inches. Right off the fingertips there. I felt like Calvin Austin had the best game out of all the wide receivers in this one, and he was just targeted. How many times was he targeted in this game? 5, and he only had 2 catches for 36 yards. Pickens let a couple of ones clank off of his hands, kind of uncharacteristic. Overall there, they really tried to get him that touchdown late. It felt like they felt like they really wanted to get that to him. And that's a ball you just, I mean, I know the defenders, trying to contest it, but that's just a ball you expect George to come down with there. He did have the catch, kind of that cradled catch later in the game that obviously was a nice catch on his part. But man, when you look at just the overall stat line of distribution, you go back through this, you think, man, 14 of 24, just 14 completed passes in this game, and Pickens still managed to lead the team in receptions with 3. Calvin Austin next with 2, and then Najee had a couple, Freiermuth had a couple, Warren had 3, Washington had 1. So, you go back through it in totality as far as the passing game goes, you think, it felt because of the yards that they did travel and the points that they score in this game, you don't expect to turn around and think, well, we only had 145 passing yards in this game, but it is what it was overall. And the passing game left a lot to be desired. Even so they were working on short fields, it felt like.
Yeah, when you're having short fields consistently, when you're able to take the air out of the football in the second half and fourth quarter, there's a change there, and the stats typically won't be gaudy. That's been the story of Pittsburgh's entire season, whether that's the Atlanta game, the Denver game, et cetera, where the stats really don't become big in the pass game. But the best thing there was some of those third down conversions to Calvin. I mean, he had 2 catches, both on third down, one for 20 yards, one for 16 yards, kind of on similar moments, extended play, crossing routes. And so, yeah, I thought it was a nice game from Calvin Austin.
That was a grand, and the TV broadcast made sure to point it out as well too. On that one down the left side on the extended play to Austin, I thought Fields' mechanics were great. The way he came out and he torqued, made sure to face up to the target. He delivered a strike to him there, and the other one as well too. Was a great throw by Fields, and I think that was just the two. Yeah, that was just the two passes that Austin receptions Austin had in that game there. I can't help but go back to wondering right before halftime how close we might have been to seeing Russell Wilson in the second half.
Sure. It would have been a real discussion had the interception stood and they come away with because you come away with 0 points off that great forced fumble that Watt has, and it's still, let's just assume 7-6 Raiders lead at the half and they get ball at the break. Yeah, that would have been a real discussion there.
Yep. I guess all the debate's going to be at this point. It's going to be interesting to see how Mike Tomlin handles this. Now, I mean, you got the moment that Russell Wilson was healthy enough to be active. Obviously they wanted to see how that went this week, and he had the built-in excuse of, we were already getting Justin Fields ready, yada yada. But Russell Wilson, by the end of the week, we knew he was going to be the backup quarterback this week. You got to. If you keep Justin Fields as your starting quarterback, how does Mike Tomlin shovel this to the side at least one more week?
There's no shoveling. I don't think one more week, in the sense of there's no excuse, no card you can play that says, well, we're not in a position to make a decision. That's what Tomlin had been using with health. We're not even thinking about decisions because it's not even on the table. It is on the table. It's front and center. It is in front of you. You can't ignore it anymore. Health's not a factor. Rust isn't a factor. It's Fields and Russ. Who's your starter? Now, you don't have to necessarily declare your starter for the rest of the season. You could say that we're just starting X this week and we'll go from there. That's a possibility. It's probably going to be his approach. I don't think he'll say this is our guy going forward and we're cemented into this. I don't think he's going to paint himself in that type of corner. But the decision this week will have to be a football decision, not a mitigating factor decision between Fields and Russ. The time is over. Tomlin got 6 weeks to play this game. The game is over.
And you can't, Bob Labriola wrote something late last night that really caught my attention there. He says, where is it here? He says that heat has cooled significantly by a reoccurrence of the Wilson's calf injury sustained by the day, blah, blah, blah. He goes on to say, now is when the Steelers have to attack an 11-game stretch within a schedule that's more challenging than any other teams over the same period. Now is when they have a defense and special teams that look capable of handling their ends of the bargain. Now is when they're starting to get back some of their walking wounded. Now is when stacking enough wins through those 11 games. And he goes on to write, finding out if Wilson has what it takes to be the difference makes too much sense. It's going to happen because it has to happen. In the meantime, it's always fun beating the Raiders. Okay, blah, blah, blah. How great has been the Fields great?
I mean, at his very best, yeah, you've seen some real impressive plays. I still can't get over that, though it was wiped out by penalty, that throw to George Pickens against Denver, which is still, from what I've seen, just being alive, personally watching as it happened, probably a top 5 throw that I've ever seen.
I love the athletic ability. That's I love that, especially as a Steelers fan for all those years, and seeing some of these other quarterbacks around the league have that. Once again, how has Fields' top side been good enough?
Yeah, that's never the issue. Is his upside enough? Yeah, that's always been a resounding yes, even in Chicago.
I guess, and look, to his credit, he had turned. Some obviously called back by you get some penalties in there and all like that. I mean, he has protected the football. Not enough big plays down the field. Now, obviously, he's been robbed of some because of some penalties and stuff like that, right? But you just do wonder what the trade-off between the in structure play of Russell Wilson, if that in structure play of Russell Wilson can trump the what Justin Fields gives you with his legs, the athletic mobility factor of it.
Right, from both the extended
and that's where we were
game.
last week.
Yeah, I mean it's the run element in the design quarterback run game, which is a factor must be accounted for. That'll help open up the run game that has struggled throughout the year largely, and also the improvised extended play scrambling ability that Fields has when he's really at a high level, able to make some of those plays like those 2 completions to Calvin Austin. So it's a great way to sum up where things are at, the juggling act. I just think Fields' play overall has been backsliding some in terms of him being accurate, seeing the field, making smart decisions, processing. I think it was crisper earlier in the season. I think it's waned and wobbled some lately, and I wonder where that's at. But I really don't know which way this thing's going to go because they're winning. They won with Fields, the run game element, the legs element. I think Arthur Smith really likes Justin Fields, the way that he praises him consistently, and really, I can't stop thinking about the Colts game, even though Pittsburgh lost. You had the bot snap at the end there, disappointing, chance to tie, goes for naught. The way that Smith spoke so highly of him after that game, said, I could have called anything, and Fields was executing. He took that game over. Really high praise there. So a lot of factors, a lot to consider. I really don't know which way Tomlin's going to go.
And the reason I read that, I wonder if Labriola knows something that we don't.
Yeah, can you repeat that last sentence? He says something about because it has to. I was trying to follow. I didn't quite catch what he was meaning, though. If you can reference that again, please.
Finding out if Wilson has what it takes to be the difference makes too much sense. It's going to happen because it has to happen. And earlier in his post here, he talks about how Mike Tomlin, he requotes back over the summer about the pole position, and both guys are vying for the role. Russ has the pole position because of the collective body of work, the totality of the body of work that he brings into the circumstance. Both guys are new to us. We're getting an opportunity to get to know them through the process. It's been a great process. Now that Russ has full health, it's going to heat up over the next couple of weeks, and I'm excited about watching it happen. And that obviously was a quote from Tomlin there that Labriola referenced. And then he earlier in the post, he writes, first and foremost, my number one agenda was that I wanted him, talking about Russell Wilson, to display his health, his ability to not only move but protect himself. I was really comfortable with what I saw there. The rest of the equation is about knocking the rust off and gaining a rapport, a relationship with the battery of receivers and things of that nature. And I thought it was a really good week from that perspective. So you kind of wonder if Mike Tomlin used this week, and why wouldn't you? Do you if you trust his health and all? We don't know the breakdown of snaps, obviously, that Russell Wilson got with the ones. I would imagine you're still going to try to give. You're not going to put Justin Fields in a situation where he's not as prepared. So, I do wonder that, barring Justin Fields coming out and just really having a best game of the year in all factors of it, especially in structure aspect of it, that if this might be preconceived, and you do have to continue to roll back. And this is, those 4 throws that I referenced earlier in the show that were off target, kind of that really rough patch that Fields went through in this game, combined with getting bailed out essentially after the interception. My mind just continues to go back to, I wonder how close that was to us seeing Russell Wilson, because it would have been the perfect time. If you're going to pull the ripcord at that point and you were down, you would have been down 7-6, right, at halftime.
Yep.
You would have had Fields coming off of a bad interception at the time. You're in essentially, I mean, not a must-win game, but it was a game you have to win.
I mean, it really was. You can't lose 3 in a row.
And a game you should win, based on personnel and all like that. Here's where else my mind went. Even if you do turn to Russell Wilson as a starter, you can bring Justin Fields into the game situation. That whole conversation rolling back to way before that we had before Russell Wilson and the calf situation there. There are situations where you're probably going to want Justin Fields in this game situationally because of the things that he can provide you with the athletic ability and the quarterback mobility. I will not be surprised if Mike Tomlin says that Russell Wilson's going to start this next game.
Well,
but if he doesn't, I am very, very curious to how he shovels this aside without adjusting the depth chart.
It's a great question, and I don't think there's a good way to do that anymore. I think the leeway that he's been able to play is no longer available to him. If this Raiders game was to be the game that would determine Fields' status for Week 7, it was not enough in a vacuum to get Fields the nod in Week 7. If
Agreed.
The analysis is the overall totality of the body of work, it's maybe a different discussion. Let's just get to the point since we're on the topic right now. Who do you think will start the Jets game, and who do you believe should start the Jets game?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
I'll answer it. I'll answer it first. If you want to mull it over, I think you've had a great argument here, and if Bob Labriola is essentially saying, "Hey, they're going to start Russ," and that tracks with other reporting from Mark Cavalli and others.
Look, I'm not arguing. I'm just trying to put some extra information. I'm not arguing that. But
you're just laying out the facts.
Right.
Based on that and based on the play of Fields, and we did agree that, I thought Fields' performance in this Raiders game would really dictate who would start in Week 7. If Fields lit it up and was awesome, then they're not going to bench him. If he's really struggled, then there really could be a change. I will say that Russ will start the Jets game. I'll go out on that limb here. Who I would start, it's really tight, really close. I would personally start Fields for one more week, and it would kind of be we're working on a game-by-game basis at that point.
I went to bed thinking that, and it wasn't this way until late last night. I went to bed right after the game. I thought, well, they're going. Mike Tomlin's probably going to start Fields. I went to bed thinking after watching a little bit more TV tape and all, and definitely this morning, after watching some of those, the all 22 of just the Fields throws, and then putting all my thoughts together, I think I won't be surprised if Mike Tomlin names Russell Wilson the starter. Who should start? I was emphatic last night that I thought Justin Fields should start. After watching some stuff this morning, I've backed off of that. I think he should start. If you've got to be able to know when to hook them. You've got to be very willing to hook them. But then,
if that's your mentality, then start Russ. If your mentality is so not all in that you're like, we're really close to hooking this guy.
Well, sure.
That might be an answer about starting Russ.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting. What changed? Because like you said, I asked this question in the group chat last night, and you were the first person to respond. You said Fields, and so what changed to go from that?
Watching that stretch of throws,
Okay.
and then looking at the actual string of plays and how things transpired there, and going back through right before the end of the half, right there. What a crucial time in the game that was. And it all goes by the wayside because they scored, and they got the roughing and all like that. But that would have been a very demoralizing situation to have the interception to go into halftime 7-6. And was Fields' play up until that point more below the line than above the line? I think it was below, especially if you add in, if it had an interception counted, it would have been more below the line at that point. I just don't know how you do this. If you come, well, I mean, I know how you do it, but it can only be done this way. If you come out, you say, if Tomlin makes the decision that Fields is going to start, then I don't know how you don't make the technical change on the depth chart. And you obviously don't want to get in a situation where this team is wondering every Tuesday who Mike Tomlin's going to name as a starting quarterback. So, and then you pile back in, what Labriola wrote makes a lot of sense, barring us talking about, man, can you believe how well through a 6-game totality, if we're sitting here saying, oh man, what a 6-game run by Justin Fields, but we're not there. We're not where we have the elite confidence that say some of the word that matches what Arthur Smith said coming out of that game the other day, 2 weeks ago. So if Russ has the more experience, and you wonder with the explosive play element of this, being able to push the football down the field, you wonder if that, and there's only one way to find out. You wonder if the explosive play and the ability to make plays within structure can trump what Justin Fields gives you in the mobility aspect of it. Now, you can still have a little bit of both worlds if you put Justin Fields in here. So I have flipped in a matter of 7 hours or whatnot. I think Mike Tomlin will go with Russell Wilson at its core from where I sit right now, and I am at a really because of Justin Fields' play so far in totality. Maybe it is the right decision to put Russell Wilson in there.
So if you were making the decision, if you were Mike Tomlin, who are you starting against the Jets?
I want to watch a little bit more of this, but I would lean towards Russell Wilson now, be honest with you.
All right, I'll ask you again. We'll have our live stream tonight, so once we get through some more tape. Yeah, and I would say Fields, it's really close. And I think someone said this on Twitter last night. I truthfully don't know who, one of the reporters, but whoever Tomlin chooses will be criticized. There is no easy decision. There is no obvious decision. There's debatable decisions across the board here. You stick with Fields, you go to Russell. We'll see. It's a tough spot to be in for Mike Tomlin, but he's a veteran coach. He'll be fine. I'm not worried about him handling it. He'll handle it the best way that he can. But I think, as you said, totality of the play of Fields overall would still keep me in the Fields camp. What he can do as a runner, that run game element is a factor as well for a team that has to run the ball. That's still, by and large, overall this season, it's not run the ball consistently, effectively, efficiently. And so that's the element of it as well. And I've still seen enough good from Fields in terms of overall ball security, playing within structure, playing within scheme, that is still going to have me go with him for at least the Jets game. If they do make the change, and we're probably need to save some of this for Wednesday, but if they make the change to Russ, you're not making that switch right back. Like, you're going with Russ for quite some time. You can't be a team that is constantly flip-flopping quarterbacks. No team has success if they're constantly changing quarterbacks. If you're going with Russ, you're going to stick with him for a while at least, and you're going to start off by facing a really tough Jets defense on Sunday night.
I think Dan Orlovsky this morning, I saw a quick clip on Get Up of him talking about the hidden yardage that Justin Fields gained you by using his legs, and there is a truth to that. But how much are you leaving on the field by not having the explosive play? This thank God for the Najee runs and in this game. That element there, but this team still has been at its core struggling to have and you cannot count on, especially with this offense, of having 20 and 30-yard runs out of your running backs. It was good to see, obviously, and I think Najee Harris obviously played a role in getting a few of those on his own, but that's stealing, like I've said. 10 now, you look at 10 yards or more as an explosive run. Anytime you get 20, 30, and even in the end zone, that's stealing in that situation there. They have now. Here's the other thing, man. Russell Wilson's playing with a deck of wide receiver core that's not great, and will that how much will that stifle Russell Wilson's ability to push the football down the field as well too? And then you roll back to what was Russell Wilson the last couple of years in Denver, right? Really a lot of dump off type situations. Can Russell Wilson make enough throws down the field to really open up this offense even more? That would allow maybe these boxes not to be so packed that will open up the running game. Is the byproduct of what Russell Wilson can give you in structure down the field going to have returns, in other elements of the game? Because this team has not been great in play action either, right?
They're terrible at it. I mean, I'm not going to use the soft language. They are miserable at play action.
What really got me, once again, what changed my mind was going back through the press box views of those, kind of 5-6 throws right in a row there.
What was this the worst game Fields has played all year? Because I've yet to watch it back, but I'm pretty confident that it was.
Probably. I mean, now there were a couple of drops in there overall that skews the stats overall. I mean, we could be talking about 16, 17 completions and a touchdown, maybe.
Yeah, we'd also talk about the interception had that stood, and people forget you referenced it, but that swing pass to Warren, that should have been a turnover there.
Right.
I mean, that pass was high. It needs to be completed. And I don't know how Jaylen Warren fell in that football. I only know because he's Jaylen Warren and he just makes the effort play that out hustles the next guy. But there are 4 Raiders players around that football and somehow Warren convincingly, without even a scrum, comes away with that. But that should have been a turnover right there.
I think I have found myself through the first 6 games getting a little bit of shiny object syndrome with the athletic ability of Justin Fields and the ability to, man, I'm so glad to have a quarterback that can make some plays with his legs.
And it's been useful. It's been really important, especially as this run game, in terms of the traditional run game, has struggled. It has been really, really valuable. He's got 5 rushing touchdowns this year.
Right.
But I get there's more to it than just how well can you run.
There's we're talking about totality of the quarterback position, and that's where I kind of rolled myself back to this morning, kind of caught myself.
I was just frustrated by some of the operation stuff in this game too. Now the snaps were clean, and that's good. Even when McCollum came in, the snaps were clean, and that's important. That big box of check, and as Fields said post game, those guys got some work together in training camp, so that's valuable. That paid off. But there were 2 delay game calls on Fields. There should have been at least a third. I know there's that half a beat you got to wait from when the clock hits 0. The refs got to look at the clock, then look back down. You kind of get an extra second to snap the football. But there was just some operational stuff in this one that I thought was messy, combined with the poor accuracy, to me, with the 2 big issues with Fields in that game. And I say worst game of the year. In fairness to him, he's not had a lot of bad games this year. He has played well overall this year. That's why I said I would stick with Fields if I was given the choice to start a quarterback for the Jets game. But I think it's fair to say, and I probably have taken some heat for this on Twitter, I think it was his worst game of the year.
He's played well enough not to lose you games.
Yeah, I mean, he has taken good care of the football overall. I mean, regardless of penalties, wiping plays out, he's got one pick in 6 games. And in Chicago, he would have thrown 10 of them at this point. So Pittsburgh has been able to create good structure for him, and he has overall been able to play within that structure.
But we're not casting all pro or Pro Bowl votes or anything like that. It's just, and look, they've been in every game, right? They've legitimately have had chances to win every game this year.
Not to rewrite history, but if they're 1 4th down stop and 1 avoid a bot snap from potentially being 6-0 here.
I think you just wonder is the good the trade. Once again, I think this comes back to the trade-off with an experienced quarterback that can, more in structure. And look, Russell Wilson, even at his age, he's not going to have obviously the mobility, factor, and you're not going to have the design runs. And hell, I think even on that quarterback draw, I think you can hear the boom Mike Frazier say it's a draw. Somebody was asking him what it sounds like it's him. I mean, sometimes that stuff's coming and you can't stop it with Fields. You can still have that element within this game. I do wonder. I would like to see it. I would like to see at least Russell Wilson get the ability to push the football down the field, I guess.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he will. He's got a moon ball. They're going to utilize his talents. I think you made the great point. If they do go to Russ, and again, we should save some of this for Wednesday and see what happens. But his guys will have to make plays. His guys will have to make some plays they've not been making the last couple of weeks. Receivers will have to step up. Pickens will have to catch some of those passes that are clanging off his hands that is very uncharacteristic for him. So the receivers will really have to step up here. And do you trust your receivers to do that? Not super confident across the board right now.
And look, I totally believe the fact that the teammates and all, do have a lot of trust in Justin Fields overall, and they like him. He's a good character kid, and can do a lot of things for you. I really am conflicted on this, but normally some of those things Labriola writes doesn't catch my eye like it did last night. I kind of wonder if he knows something we don't, but he does. He does make good points in that post that really made me think.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. And we'll have to see what Tomlin says on Tuesday. I just want to say as well, from a mobility standpoint, obviously Wilson won't do what Fields has done, but there's still some mobility there. You can run your boot game, your play action game, all those things, and maybe play action will be more effective, because I do think Fields and this offense overall has not sold play action well, and that has been a recurring problem of the season.
All right. It's kind of a weird way to attack this game, but it definitely is the elephant in the room with the decision coming up. And once again, I don't know how Mike Tomlin goes to or sticks with Justin Fields without switching the depth chart, without saying this is our guy. Because if you don't switch a depth chart, you're basically telling Justin Fields you're one bad decision away from being out of there. And I don't think that's fair to have him continue, to look over his shoulder.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if Fields cares about those things. I'm not sure if he's even glanced at the depth chart all season. I'm going to guess he hasn't, but I get your point overall. So we'll see on Tuesday. Let's bring it back to this game. I think one thing that really hurt this offense, and has continued to hurt this offense, are the penalties. They had 7 in this game. I think most here offensively, if not all offensively. And they really got themselves, and this maybe some context here for Fields to give him some grace, is they were backed up consistently in the first half.
That's a good point.
I mean, I've written down some of the down and distances they were in this game. They were in 2nd and 12, 2nd and 20, 2nd and 18, 1st and 20. I mean, they were just repeatedly hurting themselves from injury or from penalties, holding calls on Max Crosby, Broderick Jones, tagged time or two. Connor Hayward, I think, called. I think Darnell was called once. One of those calls might have been questionable, but point is, this offense was backed up, and few offenses can dig themselves out of 2nd and forever. And this offense certainly can't. I think actually Pittsburgh did a pretty good job getting out of some of those situations. I think they were in a 2nd and 20 that they were able to convert into a 3rd and short that they were able to move the sticks on. So they actually did a decent job of it. But yeah, you can't have all these penalties. Pittsburgh always talks about, guys, we can't hurt ourselves. And each week they punch themselves in the face, and that's got to stop.
Yeah, you make a good point there. And as part of getting the charts ready to distribute, you go back through this and you look at some of these second downs in this game. Hold on a minute here. Let me see if I got this sorted right here. 2nd and 9. I'm going to roll through the second down situations in here.
Okay.
Let me make sure I got penalties. I don't have that checked. 2nd and 9, 2nd and 12, 2nd and 20, 2nd and 10, 2nd and 8, 2nd and 18, 2nd and 10, 2nd and 6, 2nd and 16, 2nd and 13, 2nd and 10. That takes us, let's see, 2-minute warning, 2nd and 7, 102 left, 2nd and 3. And then that's in the first half alone.
Yeah.
So he was in very advantageous situations more times than what you would like to see.
Yeah, what's the average on that? I think, let me pull up the number. They were in an average of, on second down in the first half, an average of basically 2nd and 11, which is a horrible stat for the offense.
Now, how much would that change with Russell Wilson in at quarterback?
Well, I mean, most of them were holding calls, so
right.
It really wouldn't have changed substantially. I don't know if there was a delay of game in there or not. I'm not entirely sure when those occurred, but yeah, this offense was in and long moments far too frequently.
Right. But that is a good point that, and we talked about first down, where this team ranks in first down. They got to be better on first down, regardless of who's in there at quarterback there. But that is a good point that they were behind the chains quite a bit, especially in the first half of this game.
And they were only 4 of 13 on third down. You could say 5 of 14 if you include the fourth down conversion. They did successfully have that Fields touchdown on that improvised play. So yeah, when you're in 2nd and 11 in the first half, you're not going to be too successful on third down throughout. And Pittsburgh was not.
Okay. Anything left about the offense overall? Once again, I thought Austin played a good game from a getting open standpoint. Blocking as a whole, seemed to be okay. Najee, just a fantastic game. And then we've gone through the quarterback position quite a bit.
Let's talk about 2 plays briefly. I did like the design touchdown that Fields had on his second rushing score. Fake the toss. Fields talked about they ran that toss play to Najee earlier. Defense might have been keying on that, and you get pullers out in space. I think you had Sayamalu McCormick, I want to say, out in front, and Fields walked that thing in because that was one play after the. Is that after the block punt? No, when was that?
Interception.
That was after the interception by Dante Jackson, and so that's just a real demoralizer pick. And then immediate next play, sudden change moment, get the touchdown. That was big, just to really salt that game away, make sure the Raiders had no hope. What'd you think about the reverse flea flicker call? Looks like Detroit running that one a bit better than Pittsburgh.
Yeah, they didn't. They obviously didn't block that up.
Yeah.
Trick plays, if they work, they're the best thing in sliced bread. When they don't, you're like, why the hell are you calling them? They didn't execute that well at all.
That is safe to say. All right, Dave, flipping over to the defense, and slow start, got punched in the mouth. I mean, it was a terrible first drive. The Raiders did not face a third down. They averaged, I think, at least 3 yards on 9 of their 10 plays. They just rolled Pittsburgh, and then after that, they did nothing. I mean, that's really how this game went.
Yeah, it was concerning the way they were just marching down the field and getting some yards on that first drive, and you're thinking, oh Lord, here we go again. But they did settle down after that first touchdown. Let's see, they went. The Raiders went 10 plays for a touchdown, then had 3 plays, 4 plays, 5 plays, and that was the end of the first half because they try to Hail Mary at the end or in there. Yeah, so that you thwarted them there. You got off the field in 6 plays to open up the second half, complete with a block punt. in that situation, then they really didn't start getting their wheels again until that 9-play drive down deep into the Steelers territory. And then that's when Elliott had the touchdown saving tackle that'll get lost in the wash. It would have been interesting if the Raiders had challenged that to see if that was a touchdown. It obviously was. I mean, it was. They didn't. It was rolled down at the 1. The very next play, TJ Watt punches the ball out. So how impactful, because that would have been a perfect opportunity for them to get back into the game at that in that situation. So they did give up some yards and whatnot to allow them down. And then once again, how big a play was that? Because they had scored and then got called for an ineligible man downfield. Was that drive?
It was. There was a lot happening that drive. On that play, there was a question of A, did they get the ball off in time before the end of the third quarter, which I think the third quarter ended before that ball was snapped. And then B, about was there an eligible man downfield? And then, there was the run down to the half-yard line, and a great point by you. I think the two hidden plays, I'm going to start the series because I think it's a really important thing to highlight. It's like the hidden plays that set up the win or set up the loss. I think in this one, there were two of them. The Warren fumble recovery and that tackle by Elliott, because that should have been an easy touchdown for, I think that was Madison. And Elliott gets him down at the half-yard line, and Watt punches the ball out. And that's a huge sequence of plays right there.
Yeah, look, that was 22-7 at the time with the third quarter winding down. The Steelers had a lot of momentum at the time coming off of the Najee Harris 36-yard touchdown. Man, if you thwart them there and get a 3 and out or whatnot, you've got so much momentum there, and the last thing that you want to see is the Raiders come down and answer your explosive play touchdown in that situation. And they did move the football down the field, and it was a key set of plays right there, because they got a 1st and 8 at the 8. Madison got 2 yards, so it's 2nd and 6 as the third quarter's winding down. It looks like it's a touchdown. That's nullified by an ineligible man downfield. The next one, Abdullah up the middle for, what did he get? 10 yards on that. So it sets up a very crucial 3rd and 1. That's the one where he almost scored on. Abdullah almost scored on right there, which have been interesting to see. The Raiders had challenged that. But ruled down at the 1, and in the very next play, you get to TJ Watt. I mean, that was a very interesting set of 3-4 plays back to back together.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was critical. So let me just wind it back briefly to talk about the slow starts. Pittsburgh has allowed points by the opposition in their last 3 games, and I believe now 4 of their 6 games this year. They allowed a touchdown to the Colts, field goal to the Cowboys, touchdown to the Raiders, also field goal to Atlanta in week 1. I've seen others make this point, and I think it's a really fair critique of Mike Tomlin. You are what you preach. And how often does Mike Tomlin talk about how starts don't define us, and he's not concerned about slow starts? I mean, he has said that over and over and over because he asked about it, a million times about slow starts. And in one sense, I get that, because you don't want to sit there and put all your eggs into the starting basket, where if you have a bad start, everyone's freaking out and panicking. And I get the mentality from Tomlin. As Pittsburgh has shown, they can start slow and win games. It's kind of how they've been doing it for many seasons now. But when your head coach constantly talks about the starts really don't matter, I'm not surprised to see the Steelers themselves start slow, because it does not seem to be a real point of emphasis for Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, you would like to see them get some 3 and outs to start some games instead of these long drives, because that adds to the snap totals and yada yada. But and then it's not like your offense has been blistering it with touchdowns on first drives either on the other side there. So, but they did rebound, and They made plays when it mattered the most in this game with the defense, and Mike Tomlin's more than happy to rock fight you until you do something wrong, on the other side.
Yeah. I mean, I just say that to say that a lot of the slow start narrative and conversation is dedicated towards the offense, and rightfully so. They start slow, but the defense has started slow consistently throughout the season. And I would like to see that change because you just don't want to have to keep playing from behind early on, which has been a theme of the year. But let's talk about the good here, Dave. Let's talk about TJ Watt. And this is why he is the best defensive player in football, Dave, because
be careful here. We got on Joey Porter last week, so be careful here.
Well, no, I mean, I think it's different. But what I was going to say was he impacts the game in so many ways. He's not just a pass rusher. He's not just a guy where if the pass rush isn't there that day, which is a little bit more in Myles Garrett's world, then it's a really quiet day. He can make plays in coverage. He can swat down passes. He can play the run exceptionally well, and he can force fumbles in the run game and to pop out a pair of them in this one. I mean, he always ball searches. He's always going for the punch out. And I do think even though like on that first one to Laub, I mean, he's going for the punch out primarily. He's still wrapping up. I mean, Laub still goes to the ground. I can still see Watt make that rapid tempo on his legs. I mean, the back would have fallen forward had that ball not been punched out. But I mean, he's not like blatantly going for the punch and not even considering the tackle there. And I think that was true on the second one as well on the goal line. So to have a guy like that can make plays no matter what, because the Raiders were going to, of course, game plan for him and try to take him away. And largely they did as a pass rusher, but to still be a game wrecker when you don't have a single sack on the day speaks to the level of player he is.
Yeah, I mean, you run out of superlatives to describe what that guy brings to the defense, and it goes without saying. Mike Tomlin sums it up every time he's asked about it. We expect it, but we don't take it for granted. Mm-hmm. Those kind of things there. Charles Davis did catch himself too, though. He said, initially saying, well, he knows he's going to be wrapped up, and but then he kind of corrects himself and says, well, maybe not. And in those situations, you got to be wary of how many more extra yards. I guess it comes down into the risk versus the reward factor, because it does obviously look like the ball carrier is going to get tackled maybe a couple of yards extra if he doesn't get that ball out in those situations. But I couldn't help but think, rolling back to how we got on Joey Porter the week before. I almost wonder if Mike Tomlin's like, okay, have your moments where you think you can get that ball out, regardless.
But I mean, he's still going for the tackle there. I mean, right. The back would have come forward, but Porter was just going for the punch out and not even a semblance of a tackle attempt. I think Watt still makes that tackle, a wrap tackle on that first one. I mean, it wouldn't have been the most technical play in the world, but I mean, overall, and it's also.
I'm not getting on TJ Watt. I'm just trying to.
I think also players of that level. I think maybe there was a reference to this. Somebody has said this, but they also know when to kind of break or bend the rules a little bit. And Watt's a guy that can get away with bending the rules of technique and punch out more than a guy like Porter can.
Sure. I get that. Those were extremely impactful plays, though. And to get two of those in one game, man, unreal. He talked about Peanut Tillman and I mean, how many times during the game anyway, even when the ball doesn't come out, do you see? I mean, he's always punching at it.
Yeah, this is not an accident. This is not the first time he's punched out a football. He's punched the ball out about 100 times this season, and you just hope
even in that tackle of the loss behind the line of scrimmage, where he kind of comes free off that side early in the game. It's all in one motion there.
Yeah, watch any sack that TJ Watt with the opportunity is even remotely there. He's going to go for the punch out. I mean, he does this. I have a compilation of him on halfback draws. This guy on a halfback draw will go for the punch out each time because you're just hoping maybe that running back's a little loose with the football, get him from the side. I mean, he works at this continually, and you're not going to get it most of the time. But if you can get it 1 out of a dozen times, then it's all worth it. The extra punches. So I mean, you could have a clinic tape of Watt going for that football while still making the tackle. He's one of the best at it, and it paid off in a big way in this game. And yeah, not that I'm feeling bad for Atlanta, but that Dylan Laub, who I like coming out of New Hampshire, first career carry fumble. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, it goes without saying those turnovers played a huge factor in this game. You get them down in a situation into the fourth quarter, though, at that point, and they're trying to make plays, and you force O'Connell deep in his own end. It starts with a sack by Cam. Cam Hayward had another good game. Overall, really got wound up in that second half of that game. It felt like, especially in the fourth quarter there. You get the overthrow there, and Dante Jackson makes him pay for that. Sets you up one play later for the Fields. I mean, obviously the game was over at that point there, even though the Raiders came back down later and scored there, but. You get past that first drive of 10 plays and a touchdown. I thought largely outside of that drive to end the third quarter, which they obviously got the turnover on. I thought the unit played well. I mean, they did what you wanted to do. We talked so much about Brock Bowers ahead of this game, and boy, we forgot to mention that Jacoby Myers did not play in this game, so they were down not only Devontae. We knew they were going to be down Devontae Adams, but they were down Jacoby Myers as well too. So that really handicapped them. They were without their starting right tackle in this game.
The starting running back Zamir White did not play in this game. Right tackle Larry Munford did not play in this game, so they were hurt.
And you knew the ball was going to go to Brock Bowers in this game, and I mean, he still got his touches, but I think his longest one was 18, and he obviously did not get on in the end zone on you. Their second leading receiver was Madison, with the running back with 5 catches for 32 yards. What did they have as far as explosive plays, the Raiders, in this game?
One.
That was the deep left to Turner over on. Yeah, that was the one. Wasn't that the one that Landon Roberts tried to take his head off?
Take his head off. Yeah, that was the one on that drive where Watt punched the ball out on the goal line. So yeah, and Bowers got most of his numbers in non-competitive time late in the game on that final touchdown drive the Raiders had, for example. So I think before that, Bowers had maybe like 3-4 catches for 30 or so yards. There was one downfield throw that got wiped out by a holding call. So that, Pittsburgh was able to benefit from that. But yeah, overall, the mission was take away Bowers, and the Raiders really had nothing to work with. I mean, there were a couple of RPOs where, I thought they could have been a little more competitive, but Beanie, was able to make that one great play on that third RPO they threw to Bowers, and they put a bunch of different guys on him. They put Porter on him. They probably had Minka on him. And so they had a really good game plan to take him away, because you knew if you took Bowers away, make sure he wasn't going to hurt you in this one, the Raiders really had little to work with.
What did the charting show you as far as how they handled Bowers?
Well, I don't have charting that will reflect exactly Bowers, but I can kind of see some of the alignments of some of the slot work that maybe Porter had. I mean, again, I know that Porter was on him on a catch that Bowers had early in this game. When Bowers was backside in a 3-by-1 formation, they put Porter on him. So the tape may be able to reflect that better than the charting, but there was certainly they treated him like a number one receiver, because in this offense and its current construction, he was a number one receiver.
Right. I mean, look, you look at in totality, the almighty points allowed so far by this defense so far: 10 against the Falcons, 6 against the Broncos, 10 to the Chargers. The Colts game gave up those blown. We talked about the third downs significantly coming out of that game, and the last game, I guess, against the Cowboys as well too. I mean, even in the Cowboys game, it came down to them having to score that one final time. Cowboys had 20 points. So slow starts and all, they're able to correct those slow starts for the most part in a lot of these games on the defensive side of football.
Sure. The stats I would also just point to, just to round things out, is the Raiders had 5 first downs on their opening touchdown drive. They had 2 first downs the rest of the first half in this game, 16 first downs in this game total. And on possession downs, 3rd and 4th down, the Raiders were 3 of 14, 2-11 on 3rd down, 1 of 3 on 4th down. Dave, I've harped on the last 2 weeks how bad Pittsburgh has been on 3rd down. 17 of 30 opposing offenses were 56%. For the Raiders to be, we'll call just possession downs, 3 of 14. What is that percentage? It is good for the Steelers, not good for the Raiders, 21.4%. I think the first three games of the year, Pittsburgh was about 21% on 3rd down defense. So they're getting back to where they were in the first 3 weeks of the season, which is good to see.
All right.
And again, we know these are the Raiders. I mean, this offense is not good. We're talking about beating up on a bad, injured team, but I don't care. Playing the Raiders has always had some bad moments in the past, and Pittsburgh has not had success out there in Vegas. And so I'm just happy to get a comfortable win because Pittsburgh does not get too many of those.
All right. Special teams.
Yeah, let's talk block punt. Danny Smith forever. Say it with me, everybody. I mean, another block punt. I mean, they got one this year. They had 3 last year. One isn't technically reflected in that Patriots game because the ball went forward, but it was a block punt. They got 2, I think, in like 2021 or 2022. And so no team blocks punts literally at the rate that Pittsburgh does. It is incredible, and it keeps opposing special teams coordinators up late at night.
Just finally getting around. I did not figure out Justin Fields' adjusted net yards per passing attempt stat last night. It
probably not good.
It was 4.07. It was his lowest. It was lowest of the season for him. It is for the season to date 5.89.
And your bar was to get to at least
6.2.
So we got a pretty good sample size right now. We got 6 games into this thing, so we're below that mark by a pretty wide margin.
I mean, can obviously it depends on how it looks, yada yada, and all like that. But you do wonder if can Russell exceed that?
Yeah, we may find out. All right, Jeremiah Moon just up the A-gap free. I broke the play down this morning. There really was no crazy scheme. I don't think Pittsburgh did a whole lot to confuse the Raiders on that one. Connor Hayward was kind of bouncing gap to gap pre-snap, but I think the Raiders just blew the call. It's the protection set by the up back, tell the long snapper go left or go right, and they both went left, and Moon came in free, did a great job to finish that play, but it really wasn't anything magical or mystical that Pittsburgh did. It was just, I think the Raiders screwed up and Pittsburgh took advantage.
Good. That's what you have to do in certain situations. It's rare to see one come up the middle like that too, right? As free as he was. So I'm with you. I'm interested to look at the all 22 of that, but there was a pretty good shot on their TV broadcast alone. It looks like they just blew it.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want any free runners as a punt protect team, but you certainly don't want free runners up the middle. Shortest path to the ball is straight line, and Moon took a straight line ahead and got the job done. So kudos to Moon, first career start at outside linebacker for Pittsburgh, making the play on special teams and having to absorb those snaps too, because Moon played a bunch of snaps in this one. There was a little bit of rotation going on, but it really was Watt and Jeremiah Moon. And so to have that conditioning for a guy that just got back 2 weeks ago that missed a lot of time with an ankle injury, big play for Moon. We talked about him when they claimed him, Dave. He's a special teams kind of guy. He forced a fumble last year against Pittsburgh. Gets a block punt this one. So, I mean, that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, hopefully this team can get, I know Jerry Dulac says he thinks Alex Highsmith can come back this next week against the Jets, but most definitely against the Giants. So we'll have to see how that plays out there. But other special team, Calvin Austin had them all confused on faked out on one of those punts that if he doesn't do that, you kind of wonder if that one doesn't roll into the end zone.
Yeah, it's the art of the fake. You pretend like you're going to fair catch the ball at your 20 and the ball goes over your head. I put Calvin Austin on my winners list for those 2 third-down conversions for the fake out. He said, it was a quiet start and he's not getting a lot of volume, but he's making some plays. And so I think that was a very nice, deceitful play there. Chris Boswell, I mean, at one point he was literally outscoring the entire rest of the team. He's no longer doing that, but we'll see how it goes the rest of the way. Another 50-yard field goal. He's got 6 of them this year. He had 8 all at last year, so he continues to be excellent.
Absolutely. Money.
All right, Dave, any other final thoughts in this game? Pittsburgh 4-2, got the Jets on Sunday night.
All right. Shall we get to some emails here?
Yeah, let's get to some emails and close out today's show. Also, just really quickly, while you pull those up, live stream tonight, Dave and I, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Other injury notes here briefly. You talked about Frazier. That was really the big one. Minka Fitzpatrick, shoulder, he came back. Dante Jackson, shoulder, he came back as well. And so hopefully those guys will be good. Imagine it would not be shocking if they were limited in some form or fashion to start out this week on Wednesday.
All right. Bryce says if the Steelers decide to commit to Fields as a starter, then they need to take a page out of 2018 and 2019 Ravens and commit to more of the read option type offense where Fields can get around 185 yards passing a game with 80 yards rushing with a couple of TDs a game. The passing game will come along, but it's just not there yet. Commit to the read option and hope Pickens doesn't blow a gasket in the process. Look, I mean, I'd obviously like to see a little bit more of that. I understand. I understand. I don't think you can go into it thinking that you're going to run it 12, 13 times like the Ravens do. I would like to see it a little bit more.
I mean, it can depend on the team you're facing, what they have at edge, how they defend the read option, how often they face mobile quarterbacks, those types of things. I mean, I'm just looking at the numbers, and some of these are scrambles. I don't have it broken down into the number of design runs, but Justin Fields has 55 carries, rushing attempts through 6 games. Extrapolate that out over a 17-game season, he gets 155. That's a ton of rushes for a quarterback. His career high is 160 in 2022. Lamar Jackson, for reference, is usually around 110, 130, 140, career high 176. So it's hard to ask for more runs for Fields because he's running the ball like a running back in a committee at this point.
Yeah, but how many of those are designed?
No, I know. I mean, yeah, some of these are scrambles, obviously, but there are plenty of design runs. I mean, they ran multiple in this game, including his second rushing score. So even if you say, I don't know, there's been 35 design runs, what does that get you for a season? I mean, it's still going to be a pretty decent number, about 100. So, also, earlier in the year, you were trying to protect yourself. You were without Wilson. You had Fields. You didn't want him to get hurt. I don't know. I mean, I get it. I thought they should have done more against the Cowboys, but
yeah,
I think there's no shortage of design quarterback runs overall for Justin Fields.
Nathan writes in, keep up the great work. I think we can probably all acknowledge that Justin Fields is a work in progress and that his receiver separation is not helping his development. And that doesn't even account for Pickens' struggles or the line struggling to run block. That being said, Russ will be able to more easily check into and out of plays. It should help a bunch. He also has a better touch on short passes, so you don't need a miraculous fumble recovery of a backwards missile on a swing pass. He also is more likely to hit open throws and get rid of it quicker. So running isn't needed as much. This team could easily be 6-0, but anyone who watched the Raiders game knows that penalties and the fact that the Raiders were decimated by injuries overshadowed Fields playing meh. It's a fair statement.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair critique. The Raiders were a slop fest, and had the Raiders not hurt themselves in so many ways, I don't know exactly what's being said out there in Vegas today. You might have a better ear to it than I do, Dave, but I imagine the story of the day is the Raiders hurt themselves. They had so many missed opportunities. They couldn't capitalize. They had so many mistakes. They were so sloppy. If they just played more fundamental football, this is a different ballgame.
Look, we're back to kind of where we were last week, talking about we could definitely listen to arguments of both sides of why people think. Then there's a whole worrying about, Russ and the rust factor and continuity. But I mean, look, if he's one snap away anyway from getting in the game, he should be ready to go. Had he gotten into this game for whatever reason. So if you have confidence for a guy to be the backup quarterback for any game, you have confidence enough in him to come in and run the offense the way you want him to run it. It is going. I have bounced around on this in the last 12 hours for sure. I got myself caught up with the mobility aspect of what Justin Fields provides this team, that when I went back and looked at the actual misses that he did have in that game, and then the totality of being quote unquote bailed out, I guess, or however you want to phrase it. I do wonder if we were that interception away from seeing Russell Wilson in the second half of that game.
I was thinking we were getting to that point. Let me ask you this, Dave. I see a lot of commentary today, including from, I think, Damian Woody on ESPN. He says, be a big mistake to play Russ because of the Steelers' offensive line and their struggles, and Wilson's relative to Fields' lack of mobility. How much of a factor is that in your equation for you and for the team?
I mean, I think it's something that needs to be. Here's the thing: the ball's going to have to come out. What did we say with both these quarterbacks going into the season in this offense? They got to get the ball out quick, right?
Yeah, they've been sacked far too much. These are the two most sacked quarterbacks essentially since they've come out of the draft.
All right. So if you can't, if Russell Wilson gets in there in enough situations where he's not getting the ball out quick, he's going to run into situations like that.
Sure, but is that a reason that Wilson shouldn't start? Or how much of a factor does that weigh into?
We're back into how much he can change this offense vertically down the field with the big plays, and then really help as a byproduct of that. Maybe help the running game as a byproduct of that. You're not going to have the 60 yards rushing a game out of Russell Wilson.
Sure.
But once again, you forget the aspect of you can still bring Justin Fields into this game in certain situations and take advantage of that mobility.
Yeah, right. That is a factor. It's not all or nothing. We would be back to the pre-week 1 discussion of what package plays and situational moments would you get Fields on the field for. To answer my question for the offensive line, it wouldn't really be a factor for me. The ball's going to come out quick. You would adjust to that with Wilson. I'm focusing the job on who is the best quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers and the offensive line, which I don't think has been terrible. I think some are overstating how bad this O-line has been. I think they've protected pretty well the last 2 weeks, especially. Some continuity is good for them. It really would not impact my decision.
Has Justin Fields without a shadow of the doubt, wrestled away the quarterback's 1 position away from Russell Wilson in 6 games?
No.
I think we both can agree on that.
What does that mean, though?
Well, I mean, if you haven't adjusted the depth chart and your quarterback 1's Russell Wilson, you've got to go to your quarterback 1, I guess.
Well, it goes back to the question that I had. Do you feel compelled? Do you feel like you have to go back to Russell? Is it clear and obvious for this team to make a quarterback change?
I think it's clear and obvious that you have to see what your starting quarterback has.
Why do you say that?
Because he's your starting quarterback.
But if Fields was lighting it up, then
right, then he should be your starting quarterback. But he has not done enough to be named the starting quarterback moving forward.
I just say that to say that the idea of, okay, well, he's your starting quarterback. He is still technically number 1 on your depth chart. It doesn't. That's not a relevant point to me in terms of, well, you just go back to him because he's listed as the starter. Like, it's based off of Fields and his play.
Right, but Justin Fields is not the starting quarterback technically.
I know, but technically no. But
and
yes.
He's not done enough to earn QB1 on a depth chart. I don't think so.
Okay. That's fair.
I'm getting into semantics here, but I think I think that's the way Mike Tomlin's purposely done this.
Yes, but this decision should not be about semantics. This decision, which will actually be a decision.
It's not. Your number 2 quarterback has not played well enough to be the number to overtake the spot on the depth chart yet.
Okay, no, that's fair. I mean, I get that. Now, it just, again, what I was going back to in terms of who would win the job, who should start, who should be benched is it clear and obvious? Those are kind of the things I go back to, and I'm still not quite at that point that it's clear and obvious that Wilson is the guy over Fields, and that's why I'm still leaning Fields here.
All right, Nate writes in, I thought we had a Troy and Ryan combination in Minka and Deshaun. Elliott has had some hits this year that really had me thinking I was looking at Ryan Clark. Minka's been the weaker link, he writes. Either he or the scheme need to find ways for him to start making impact plays. The quarterback thing is going to be a mess, he writes. The arguments for both sides make complete sense. If no Frazier, that might be a deciding factor, he writes. Is Boz a Hall of Fame kicker right now? If no, complete this sentence. He would have to be a kicker at this level for X more seasons to be a Hall of Famer. Man, it's so, how many kickers are in the Hall of Fame?
It's not many. Vinatieri will get there soon enough. No, Boswell, as much as I love Boswell and build a statue for him in Pittsburgh, I say that almost half
so
seriously.
Hard.
No, he's not a Hall of Famer. I mean, you got to do some Super Bowl, some championship type stuff. And that's why Vinatieri will get in. Tucker is overshadowed by Tucker. If anyone gets in kind of from this generation, it'll be him. So no, not on Boz, but Steelers Hall of Honor type of guy for sure.
Deshaun Elliott has played extremely well in the role that he's asked to play so far, and very impactful, as we mentioned in this game. Because if he doesn't get that touchdown saving tackle at the end, I mean, when he got it, the next play doesn't happen, obviously there. Are you concerned at all about Minkah? I'm not.
No, I'm not. I mean, I think both safeties have played well. They've both been really good tacklers. Yeah, do I want Minkah to make an impact play in an interception? Sure. Has not got many chances this year. I think some of the mistakes, some of the plays, probably some nuance about what went wrong in the Chargers game, in the Cowboys game. So no, I'm not concerned about Minkah. I mean, I get wanting to make plays, but you can't press. You start pressing for big plays, you'll start making mistakes, and this defense can't afford that. So they're both doing fine.
All right, Matthew from Warren, Michigan writes in, I wish the NFL would outlaw players punching at the football. TJ Watt forced fumble. To me, a punch is a punch. What if the puncher misses the ball and hits the player? Should he be ejected? Should intent make a difference? If so, I'm sure the player receiving the punch doesn't feel any better. No, I don't think. I mean, trying to get the football out as part of the game. It's always been part of the game, and I can't help but reading this and think back to that Ravens game last year. Who was it? Flowers. Who was the guy that TJ tried to punch the ball out?
Yeah, I don't remember who it was. I know what you're talking about.
And it seemed like he almost cold cocked him there. Nah, look, trying to punch the football out, and if you miss and hit the player, I mean, this is a contact sport.
Yeah, they got helmets, they got pads on, so no, we all understand what is a punch in a football move and what is a punch in a I'm trying to punch you move, and so
right.
No, keep punches. Defense. It's hard enough to play defense in today's NFL. Let's not make it harder for this defense or any defense.
All right, got through the emails there. Kind of a weird show today, wasn't it?
I mean, I know we spent a lot of time on the quarterback, but we want to get ahead of it because I know Tomlin will hopefully have some information for us Tuesday. So I think it was important for us to talk about the quarterback situation ahead of that because it is kind of judgment day for, I think, this team going to week 7. And we wanted to kind of get our thoughts instead of reacting to it, in which, of course, we will do on Wednesday. But I think it was important for us to get our thoughts out. It's unfortunate for Monday because I don't have time to go back and watch the tape, and the all-22 is kind of just starting to come out, and so it's harder to kind of give a true evaluation of it all. But I think I don't think I'm going to feel much differently about Fields' play in this one after watching the all-22 as I currently do watching it live.
I'm trying to roll back through my head. I don't think I think I didn't do as good in the earlier parts of the show there with trying to articulate kind of my changing thoughts since last night. Cause I mean, you got to really be open when you do this, and what you see on one thing and come out, because look, it's hard to manage I put so much emphasis after the game because I missed so much during the game with trying to keep up with everything that my rewatch after the game is very important to me. But even then, I felt like I was missing some things, and you obviously get into the totality of the quarterback situation, how Mike Tomlin will handle it. Then I knew I had to first thing this morning get up and look at all the dropbacks on Fields, especially on that really caught me off guard what Labriola wrote last night. So, and it really kind of hit for me. And I really kind of had a change of course, late last night of kind of thinking which way this might go and which way this should go. And I don't think it was a great game overall by Fields. I do wonder what the trade-off will be from the mobility versus the experienced quarterback that can push the football down the field. And then I also think, how in the hell is Mike Tomlin going to work his way around if he does decide to stick with Fields, but yet keep Russell Wilson as number one on the depth chart? It just all that rolling together in my head probably didn't produce great thoughts by me early on in the show.
Well, I think we use this show. Most of the show, as you know, is just us talking it out ourselves. Right. Like us just kind of working through and processing. You and I. It's good to kind of get to talk to somebody and sound it out here. And you guys are just kind of along for the ride, the listeners. But you still, if I ask you the question of who should start, you want to wait. You're not there on an answer, which is fine.
Yeah, I am leaning towards more towards Russ now.
But you're not. Like,
I mean, look, either decision that I come to here by the Wednesday show, I'm not running up, and it's not a hill that I'm dying on. Mm-hmm. I can guarantee you that, because I think there are good arguments on both sides here, and I don't think deep dive into tape is going to change much of that. Where I say, here it is, I'm dying right here. Russell Wilson should be the starting quarterback the rest of the way.
I get that. I'm just curious for your thoughts. So just before Mike Tomlin makes his decision, but there is to me no clearly wrong answer here. I can understand either direction.
All right, we will be back on Wednesday. We'll be actually back later tonight for the live stream. That'll be quite interesting. I'm guessing we'll get a lot of questions and thoughts and opinions on who should be the starting quarterback for the Steelers. Send us your emails, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. Tell us who should be the starting quarterback and why for the next Sunday night game against the New York Jets. You can follow me on Twitter /X @Steelers Depot. Follow Alex @Alex_Kozora. Follow the show @Terrible Podcast. Once again, email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button, follow the directions that way. I'm on a new medicine, so I'm probably it feels like I'm stuttering a little bit more. I don't know why, but
I think you're good.
But sorry about that. My thoughts kind of racing this morning for some reason. I'm 3 days into this medicine, but anyway, we will be back on Wednesday for the show. So as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.